So let's talk about the structure a little bit, right? So we are going to have 6 groups, 4 teams in each, except for Group A. And then there's also Group D, which has FC Dallas, which might not be playing. So then if that happens, who knows what's going to happen? Their first game is already postponed. So this whole MLS is back tournament structure, it's really a segment to say we have no idea how this is about to end up, because there are still 3 days from recording right now to when we're going to kick off, and we don't know if all the teams are even going to play. There are some teams that aren't even there yet. So that brings me to a point where we say, is this tournament even worth it? We can talk about structure all day and how they can turn things around and this, that, and the other, and how all these teams are going to play each other and whatever. Is it even worth it, Adam?
That's a good question. Looking at it right now, and it's the feeling I've been getting for the last couple of days and last couple of weeks since we've gotten more information about this tournament. As excited as I am for MLS to be back, I don't feel like this is just worth it at this point, honestly. I mean, we look at the leagues that are going on overseas, but those are countries where their numbers of COVID are going down. Ours are literally going the opposite way. I know a few players have spoken out even as recently as a couple hours ago, and are basically like, we don't feel safe in Orlando. I think Diego Rubio said, we can't leave the hotel, but no one's bringing us food, so we have to leave the hotel to get food because we kind of have to eat. So it's just been a mess. I know a bunch of teams, not just FC Dallas, have tested positive. I'm sure more, unfortunately, will test positive before MLS officially kicks back off. And as much as I love this sport and I'm excited for it to be back, you can't risk people like this, and I don't feel like it's necessary to push through when you don't have to.
It's a great point. Connor, your thoughts?
I mean, the easy answer is no. That's just obvious based on what you see with Dallas, Nashville, every team. But I feel like the best thing to do would be to ask the players and the staff that are the ones that are out there risking it themselves. I think that you should ask them if they want to continue going on with this, because if they don't, then I think you really got to consider pulling the plug on this. And, obviously people are going to lose money in this, but it'll be for the safety of everybody else. I would say the only way I could see them possibly saying yes is that it's like, we went through all this already. It's like all these people that are getting the disease, if you don't even end up playing, it's like, well, then what did I do all this for? You basically just gave me the disease and then we did nothing. But yeah, I still think you should ask the people that are out there risking it themselves. And I do feel like the players at this point would probably say that they don't want to play.
Yeah. I mean, you said that they spent all this money to set, everything up and rent out the hotels and everything. And we kind of know how MLS feels about, making money. It's kind of the number one priority, regardless of what else happens. It's even more unfortunate that which season of MLS this is. This was supposed to be like a big year in terms of league history. We have, teams looking to join every other year, it seems. We've got 2 more coming next year, 2 more coming a few years after. So I felt like this was supposed to be like this, huge flagship season, which is now falling apart. And even though it's not the exact same as a normal season would be, MLS is going to be like, look, we're getting this done, whether we have to just shove everyone into Disney and play. I just feel like that's their bottom line, especially now.
It's an interesting point from both of you, and I agree, right? As much as I am excited, right, and I literally just said it, I cannot wait for this to come back. Looking at it from a humane point of view, right? You've got people who, and I'll take Aaron Long as an example, right? Connor brought it up, like, is he going to play? And I think Connor brought it up because he was injured in the beginning of the season. We didn't see him play. Aaron Long just gave birth to like a beautiful baby girl like 2 weeks ago. he goes out to this tournament, brings that thing back. Who knows what could happen? And you've got tons of people in that same position. Dax McCarty's got a young kid too, right? And these are just players that I follow on social media, but I know there are tons of others that are there, right? So you look at it from a humane point. It's like, how can you make somebody come in and follow all these guidelines, but then you walk in, you've got teams that are walking with 10 people who have it, and everybody's in close contact, touching each other, and it's very, very difficult. And when you look at the grand scheme of things, and it was I'm going back to the tweet that I sent y'all, the ECS, the supporters group for the Sounders, who protested when the team left, saying, we're not for this. We don't support this. We love our team and we love supporting them. But they have a sign there: sports are not work lives. And it's a really good point. It's a really, really good point that at the end of the day, it's just a game. It will be there when this is over. We need to make sure that we have an answer to all this stuff. And if we don't have it, you can't risk things like that. Now, on another side, on a business side, when you've been out for 17 weeks now, and you're a league like MLS where you don't have a ton of draw and you don't have a ton of people coming to see you week in and week out, and you a lot of times have teams that are mainly losing money, and it's not like they're losing from 300 million to 290 million. They're balancing between 5 and 4 million, which when you're running a team like that, that's a big chunk of change to lose when you're losing 20% of whatever you bring in. That's a lot to lose in one period. So I understand why MLS is trying to get it through, because every little bit can help, especially when a league, like Adam mentioned, is growing so much. When it grows that quickly and has so much potential ahead of it, you have to take every precaution to make sure that it doesn't flop. So I see both sides of it, but at the end of the day, man, you just got to be careful. And I, as the numbers keep going up and up and up, the less I see the need to keep playing. But alas, we are still playing. However, it doesn't mean that there are people who are just jumping in and playing with them. There are lots of notable names missing, either for injury or personal reasons. Two of those names are Iko Para for injury and Carlos Vela, I believe, for personal terms, unless I've seen otherwise. But you've got people who are choosing to sit out, which is an interesting choice, especially from big names like that. It makes you wonder how many more people are going to say, you know what, this isn't worth it, I'm not doing it. So just a lot of things to keep in mind and a lot of things to watch over the next 3 days, because it is a very fluid situation. A lot of things can happen in the next 72 hours. And, I don't want to say I'm excited to see what happens, but I'm very anxious to see where it goes, because it literally can go anywhere. So.
Yeah, I mean, the injury people, like, I totally understand. It's probably actually better that they don't play. I don't know what Opara's specific injury is, but he's now getting so much more free time to just focus on recovery,
Right.
rather than, trying to force himself to maybe play in that last group game, risk getting re-injured, and then he's out for I don't know how much longer. Vela, on the other hand, I totally understand. I'm not saying go against your personal reasons. You have to play in this. Like, I fully support him making his own decision and worrying about his own personal well-being. That being said, MLS cannot afford him not to play. You just can't. He's literally the biggest name in MLS right now. Like, if he sits out, if he says, yes, I see MLS having this tournament. Technically, I'm contracted to the LAFC, but I don't want to play. That's a huge blow and kind of a slap in the face to the league, where your biggest name talent is saying this isn't worth it.
I very much wonder what the repercussions are for somebody walking in and saying, I'm not playing, right? It's like somebody going on strike.
But I don't think there are any, at least from the players in the Premier League that I've seen. So like a Troy Deeney or N'Golo Kante, who originally, when they were starting to come back into training, didn't report. You know, they talk to their managers and head officials at the club. Troy Deeney, like Aaron Long and, you know, players we've mentioned, has a newborn at home who was born with respiratory issues. And he literally said, he's like, I can't risk bringing that back. Like, I physically just can't do it.
Yeah.
And Watford said, you know, we totally get it. You're our captain. Like, you do whatever you need. We will carry on without you, but your family and your safety is obviously most important. Same with N'Golo Kante. His were more personal reasons, so similar to Avella. And he basically spoke to Chelsea. Chelsea agreed. They said, you know, obviously you're one of our more important players, but we understand. Like, if you aren't comfortable coming back, no matter how many safety guidelines we may have in place, like we can't, you know, we can't force you to come back and into an unsafe environment. Thankfully, they're both now playing because I think the Premier League's done a really good job at, you know, making sure the exposure is limited. Not to be negative, but I don't see MLS doing the same thing.
No. I think they'll do their best.
Yeah.
There's also no telling on other big names that could be missing. I mean, you see all the links of these teams getting players with the virus, and we don't even know which players have it. I mean, there could be a ton more big names that may not be playing.
Yeah, this tournament's unfortunately becoming not who's the best team, but literally who's sustained the least casualties in terms of starting players. Like, we don't know who from Dallas has it. As far as I know, like 8 or 9 players were reported.
I think it's 10 players, 1 staff.
Okay, so let's say conservatively 5 of those 10 are starters. That's half your starting 11's now out.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell me Dallas is still going to try to make it out of the group like that? You can't have that.
It's definitely a strange situation for sure, and it's one to keep an eye on. I hope everybody stays safe, and I hope that they can get this right, because it would be huge for this league to come back. It would be huge to get it in front of eyes that don't usually see it. All of this is huge for the league, but they need to get it right. If they don't get it right, this is going to be – it could be catastrophic for the league to come back and say they did it wrong. Nobody's going to support them anymore. League fold. It can be that drastic, and that's terrifying. Not
because this is obviously unrealistic and is never going to happen, and I don't mean it to sound like this is something I want, but would that be the worst thing to happen if the league completely folded? And what I mean by that is, we know that U.S. soccer has needed a restructure for years on the way that players are brought through. It's, $3,000 per year to get a young kid 5, 6, 7, 8 to, play for their club. It's a huge problem in this country. European players who have come over have said, like, this isn't right. So I almost wonder, and it obviously could easily just go the other way and we no longer have soccer in this country, but I wonder if that's finally kind of the straw that kind of forces those changes.
If that happens, and that's a topic for another day. That is 100% something we could sit down and chat about forever. That basically puts a knife in the idea that you would ever have pro rel here, because you would restart the entire cycle. But conversations for another day, and a very interesting way to look at it for sure.
I also think that I also think that some teams would not be able to recover from that, like a Colorado maybe, or like a San Jose. I don't think they would restart. I think that's it. They're done.
Right. So not to go into the full conversation, but you'd start over with a smaller league and teams where you're going to have a market. And you're not just adding teams to add teams like we seem to be doing now, at least.
You literally would need to go back to MLS 1.0.
Yeah.
It would be brutal. It would be something that I don't think the league would come back